In today's fast-paced real estate landscape, success demands more than surface-level expertise. It requires insight, adaptability, proven strategies, discipline, and the ability to take risk. The Agent Brew podcast blends candid conversations with wisdom from industry leaders who've walked the path before you. Think of us as your strategic pit stop to fuel your real estate journey. From the crossroads of the world, in the heart of Times Square, welcome to the Agent Brew, a podcast that percolates real estate insights. I'm your host, Eric Zollinger of Realty Co. Welcome, viewers and listeners. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode as we explore and navigate the unique journey that our guest has had in the real estate industry. We welcome to the Agent Brew today, Tali Berzak of Compass in Brooklyn. Welcome, Tali.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to have a conversation with you today.
I'm very excited too. So you mark our very first person that I had knowing prior to the podcast. I always like to inform people how we know one another. And so we were introduced through August PR.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And they're amazing.
And I'm so excited for our conversation today because I gave you the outline. You've been so studious and I love your answers. I'm just really, I'm excited to dive into this because listen, everybody has their own journey, right? And whether you come from the city or not the city or whatever market you're in, I love the fact that you spent a lot of time and we'll talk about it, but like your mentorship and just how your business has changed overall. So before we do the deep dive, can you share with us your elevator pitch? Like, what is your business now? And who are you?
I mean, I'll start with my name. My name's Tali Berzak. Pretty easy to start with. I work for Compass. I've been at Compass since 2018. I've been doing real estate for about 15 years. I'm a principal agent of the Berzak Metcalf team, hence the name. And we have 5 agents on our team. We do specialize in Brooklyn, New York, specifically in the townhouse redevelopment market of Brooklyn. The neighborhoods we focus on are Bed-Stuy, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Crown Heights, Bushwick, Prospect Lefferts Garden. Now we're branching into Clinton Hill, Fort Greene, Park Slope. But what that means is generally speaking, we work with people that buy, renovate, and then sell their townhouses. So we call them developers. They're renovators. And that's what we did.
Wow, that's great. I guess, where are you from and how does that color your real estate business today?
Originally, I'm from Israel. I was born in Israel, lived there until I was 7, then moved to Rochester, New York, lived there until I was 15, back to Israel. So I've done a lot of the back and forth, which has helped me understand all of the nuances of resettlement and just reestablishing yourself and what it feels like to change in locations pretty drastically. And so when I started my career, I was really good at helping buyers navigate that process because I understood the importance of feeling at peace and at home in the new place that you're moving into. You can kind of see the sparkle in their eyes when they find their unicorns. So I was able to really tap into that with a lot of my buyer clients. How it's informed my business today is interesting because I do work with a lot of like Israelis, which, because of the Israeli connection, it's easier to work with other people that you are familiar with so from that perspective, that's how it's formed today's business.
Great. And what did you do prior to real estate?
I mean, so as an Israeli, you're in the military and then you travel. So I was in school at Columbia, finishing my degree in the 5-year track of undergrad and studying philosophy, pre-med. I was supposed to go to medical school next. That I wasn't entirely sure that was the right course of action and the right next step in my life. And so I did take a year after school to kind of understand if this was my life goal to become a doctor. And I realized during that time through volunteering that perhaps that wasn't the path forward. I was working as a bartender at the time and I met Eddie Shapiro from Nest Seekers, and he's the one that actually brought me into real estate. So through him, that's how I became an agent. I thought it was going to be temporary, but here we are 15 years later. So,
Wow. So I mean, that's really a great segue into my next question is who are your mentors in the industry?
so I mean, Eddie Shapiro, though he gets a bad rap, I think, in the industry, is actually one of the mentors that helped me in my real estate career. He brought me into real estate. And I think like one of the things about Eddie is that he's this like kind of shoot from the hip kind of person. And so because of that, he doesn't look at any obstacle as unsurmountable. So you look at everything as an opportunity.
Right.
And you're always pushed forward to take the opportunity, even if you don't know what you're talking about. And so I think like, and so from that, because you start to believe in everything as an opportunity, you're able to propel yourself forward, even if it's uncomfortable. And I think that that's where Eddie really shines.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's more of a mindset, right? So that you put yourself in that, as Tony Robbins would say, where your focus goes, your energy goes. Are
Yeah.
there any other mentors of that?
Yeah. I mean, I do have a female mentor, because I think that there aren't that many of us in real estate, actually, especially in the development world. And so Sophia Estevez, who was the vice president of TF Cornerstone for many years, she's now retired, but she was actually someone that I really looked up to while I was on site at 99 John, which is a building that was run by that was being sold by TF Cornerstone. So I was on site alongside Brian at the beginning. He left and did $1 million listing, but and she was the director. Well, she had a director below her, but she was running the show there. And I think like what she helped me understand is no matter how powerful you are, you never forget the people that help facilitate that power. So for example, like she was friends with the contractors and the people in charge of construction, and she would speak to them on a first name basis. And I think that really helped me understand that you can't just look at the people above you, but you also have to look at the people that are around you
Mhm.
and respect them and garner your power from making sure that you're creating a good relationship with the people around you as well. And then, I mean, I also think that, she was a powerful woman. And she taught me that you can still be humble and be powerful. So like, you don't necessarily have to show off your power in order to be to come across as someone that has a lot of influence.
Great answers. It's really inspiring. To move on, as far as over your 15-year career, I'm sure you've had multiple wins. Are there any that stand out in your mind that you're most proud of?
Yeah. I mean, I think like, to be honest, one of my first transactions was a very large transaction. It was like a $3.25
Hmm.
million sale in a co-op that was being run by Charles Greenfall. Greenfall? Yeah,
Hmm.
a management company. And so it was a very complicated transaction, and I was across from Iris and Serena Boardman. They had
Oh
partnered
yeah.
in Sotheby's. And the way I was able to get to that transaction was through my client who had reached out on a listing that I had posted on Nest Seekers at that time. Street Easy wasn't as big as it is today. Nest Seekers platform online was very strong through their website, and we could post open listings as long as you contacted the seller of the open listing, made sure it was okay. So I had a listing up, and someone had reached out on that listing, and subsequently I started working with this woman. She was coming to New York. She asked that I set up a tour. I toured her around the Upper East Side. Didn't know very much. It was pretty obvious from during the tour that I did not know very much. But again, this is Eddie Shapiro, and you just take every opportunity. And at the end of the tour, we had parted ways, and I called her and I said, I apologize. I'm new to this. I promise that if we continue working together, I will find something that makes sense and that works for you. She said, actually, you're a breath of fresh air. I've worked a lot with brokers on the Upper East Side, and and I'd rather work with you, even if you're learning. And so I took that she said, I'm coming back in a few months. I took that time to walk the entire Upper East Side and learn every single building and what it looked like, because I had obviously understood that what kind of character of building she was looking to purchase in. And then when she came back, we actually saw quite a few apartments, and a few of them seemed to match what she was looking for a lot better.
Hmm.
Ultimately, she raised her price point, and then we ended up finding something in the Bing and Bing buildings on the Upper East Side. So that
Oh,
was a pretty big win for me.
that's great. I mean, you saw the problem, you solved it by pure and simple hard work, and some people don't seem to think that that still has to exist, right, alongside, but it does.
Yeah,
It's
definitely does, especially at the beginning. Especially at the beginning. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, you have to like do the grunt work, walk the streets, learn. One of the things Eddie said to me, I remember, was like, you'll notice as you continue in your career, you'll start looking up instead of right at the street level. You start looking at the buildings around you, and you'll notice that shift in like, okay, where am I, and what is around me, and what are these beautiful buildings that I'm walking around. So, that was very true.
as we're having this conversation, I'm remembering what it was like being that first agent. I was 25 years old working at Corcoran. Back then, there were no teams. And so the late, great Emily O'Sullivan, God rest her soul, I remember her telling me that, you know what? You need to know every building possible. And I would go to bed at nighttime and I'd lay there in bed and I would start walking because we were at 616 Madison, 60th and Madison, in the Barney's building. And I would just start walking in my mind at nighttime. Okay, walk down this block all the way to the river and then back. And it was literally a nightly exercise that I did. And it wasn't until I did new development where Ann Young was like, you need to know everything. So I went to the Department of Buildings and I got the zoning map, which I don't think you're allowed to do anymore, post 9/11, but I got it and I color coded everything on the west side. Is it a co-op? Is it a rental? Is it a new development? Which at that time was 2003, maybe. So there wasn't that many new ones. But you're absolutely right. It is something that early on you need to walk the streets, look up, look down. I mean, know everything about your neighborhood.
Yeah, or even if you're working in a neighborhood you don't know because you have a buyer that's asked for a certain, a different neighborhood, or they're pivoting from one neighborhood to another. When you're out there doing the tours, run the tour before you go on the tour and learn all of the buildings around you so that you know what you're talking about.
I love it. This is great. So, besides that, as a win, sometimes one will have a transformational loss in their career or life. And so, do any stand out in your mind that you want to talk about?
I think I learned in my life that you have losses and you have to be able to pick yourself up and move on. And so like the real estate losses that I've had, I don't know if they're necessarily transformational in a life perspective, but they've been transformational in how I conduct my business, right? So for example, like I've had a situation in which I was working with a couple. They were looking at a new dev. We got an accepted offer. The entire time that we were working together, we had talked about everything together on joint calls. And then it came time we were at contracts are out. All of a sudden, we had discussed an inspection. I said, it's not really necessary because it's a new dev and you're going to be able to like have a walkthrough and a punch list. It's up to you if you want it, but it's not necessarily, it might hurt your timeline a little bit as far as the developer side is concerned. I said that, more in passing than in like serious conversation. And then the husband came back saying that they really want to do an inspection. And without the wife there, she explained that she thinks it's really necessary. And I said again, there's a situation in which now you're delaying the process and someone else can come in. This is a very tenuous time during a deal where you can have an accepted offer and contract sell, but another buyer can swoop in, and we are not at list price and we're not all cash. And so, there is an opportunity for a buyer to come in and make another offer, and you could lose the transaction, right? You could lose this apartment. Is it important enough for you to go through the inspection knowing that there's a chance that you're going to lose the apartment? Obviously, there was a background. There was another buyer hovering like behind the scenes, right?
Right.
So essentially, they still wanted to move forward. And of course, another buyer came in at full list and we lost the deal, and I got blamed for it. And I got blamed for it because I didn't warn them that that could happen. And so I got blamed by the wife, and then the husband followed route because he didn't tell her that I had warned them that that could happen. So moving forward, I
These
made
are
sure.
lessons you learn in the industry and in the game that
Right.
you just know next time you need to do something different. So,
Right. So from that perspective, going forward, I said, from now on, if there are two people involved, they must be on everything all the time, on our
right.
calls, on our thing, because otherwise, and Compass is actually really good about this because if we have collections and different things, it's a platform where everyone can communicate on the same listings. So like everyone is kind of communicating on stuff without having it just be one person on an email or something like that. So I think that that's something that's great about Compass. But also that was transformational in terms of my business.
It's great because it then informed and you had to make a change going forward unless you want to make the same mistake or potentially having your buyers make the same mistake. So you were just talking about Compass and collections. I'm curious, how does technology play a role in your business and life? What mobile phone do you use? What are your favorite apps or,
So I use an iPhone. I'm a big Apple person. And I'm on a Mac right now. But we use Gmail and Google Drive at Compass, which I think is the most important thing for me, which I know sounds really silly, but the search engine on Gmail is the best. And it's in my opinion, significantly better than Microsoft. So that allows you to keep your email as a to-do list because you can archive things and you're always able to search them with keywords. And from my experience, Microsoft, when you use the keywords, doesn't necessarily bring up all of the emails. And so therefore, for me, having Gmail and Google Drive, which is how we communicate on all of our
Mhm.
transactions, and how we've been communicating with clients. My clients have shared drives with me. That's been the best thing. I know it sounds basic, but it's definitely been very helpful. However, Compass just came out with Compass One. So Compass One is essentially the place where all transactions will come together, and you'll be able to communicate through Compass One on all transactions. So it's going to be interesting to see that unfold and for us to start using that a little bit more.
That's great. What do you do outside of real estate? Do you have any passions, any sports that you like to do?
Sports, yeah. I work out at the gym a lot. I weightlift in the mornings, which I enjoy quite a bit. And then I take my son snowboarding every Saturday, which is the only way I can actually guarantee that I'm not working.
Well, I'm curious to know because at least in Manhattan, it's kind of an unspoken rule. Unless you're a new development and you have a sales gallery or a new building, showings don't happen on Saturday like they do everywhere else. So is that the same for Brooklyn?
Not usually, but they do still happen. There's a lot of people that still ask for Saturdays. You do get a lot of like street easy experts ask for Saturdays a lot of times because that's when they're available to take the client out that asked about the listing. But our business is very interesting in that we work with like eight eight or nine townhouse developers that buy, renovate, and sell townhouses. And so we always have like a list of upcoming projects that are in process. And so because of that, we show them before they're finished. So a lot of times buyers can come into these projects pre-finished, and add finishes that they want. Make selections on lighting, fixtures, vanities, paint color, things like that. And so we do show those houses, and the easiest day to show those is Saturday. I have tried not to work as much on Saturdays. Just having worked on Saturdays for so long, as you said, new development. I started my career pretty much in new development, and I worked on Saturdays. But I yeah. So by going out to New Jersey to go snowboarding every Saturday, especially during the wintertime, I don't work on Saturdays. And it's fun because I get to hang out with my son, which is awesome.
Very good. So I guess this is a natural progression and segue to, what is your daily life like? Are you a structure person where you have the same routine, or do you have just things that you have to do in that day? It just doesn't matter the order.
I mean, it's somewhat structured and somewhat chaotic. So it's structured from the perspective that I wake up every morning at 6 to 15 a.m. and then I go to the gym from 7 to 9 every day or almost every day. I try not to schedule any appointments before 9:30 so that I can do that because it keeps me sane. And I think we all need a little bit of that. Um, and then, so that's a routine that I stick to. But then from the perspective of the rest of my day, because a lot of it is meeting with these townhouse flippers, because I help them sometimes with layout, sometimes with design. I do tile appointments. They have a question about where to put a door or how this layout works, or should we change this closet or whatever it is. My days starts with a schedule, and then usually all of the empty holes in the schedule get filled with additional appointments. And so I do work, more haphazardly during the day. But yeah, we're recommending to our team to time block. And I would love to time block. I just don't know if I can yet, but yes.
No, but I love that it's super structured when you first wake up, so that every day it's basically the same. You know what to do. Your body gets into that rhythm. I have found, for me personally, that's when I'm at my best, is when I have
Totally.
that structure, because that's what I grew up with. So
Totally. And I agree. And I also think like what's interesting is I think there's a way to make the schedule a little bit more organized. And I've hired someone that will help me do this. So that's good too.
that's great. So here at the Asia Brew, we like to play the gratitude game, but with a little bit of a twist of coffee, right? Because we are the Asian Brew, and we start with, it's a rose, thorn, bud. And so with the aroma, that's handed the first rose. And that's, when you're just waking up and you have that cup of coffee that's brewing and you have the aroma, it's just like, oh, I mean, come on, they do national commercials for this, for certain brands of coffee. And so it's that invigorating moment. What would you say right now that's energizing you, or that, that gets you out of bed in the morning?
I mean, honestly, it's like the drive to the gym. It's out of bed in the morning. I mean, waking up also saying good morning to my son and giving him a kiss. I love him. But and my wife was amazing as well. But I think that actually, because I live in Bed-Stuy and I go to the Equinox in Williamsburg, and so that drive, which is 20 minutes long, is a really, it's actually you watch yourself come out of the sleepiness and into your day. And then by the time you get to the gym, you're ready to go.
The brew that is the second rose, what brings you deeper joy? That satisfaction. One might say, what is your why?
I mean, my family's my why, I mean, and I think a lot of people say that, but my family's my why. My family's my why. I mean, why would you do all of this if you didn't have, I love my family. I love my wife and my son. I think that, I met my wife about a year into my real estate career, and she's really been the motivation for my success, because otherwise, you don't push yourself as much as if you don't have other people around you pushing you. And I think she was the first partner in my life that helped push me.
Thank you. For anybody that is listening that is not a real estate professional, but yet you are with someone that is, God bless you, because
Yeah.
we're a tough bunch,
Totally.
right? It's
I mean, we work 7 days a
some
week.
might even say we're a little extra, but
Well, we work 7 days a week minimum. So
Right, right. And so,
yeah.
we talked about the two buds. Now it's time to talk about the ground. So that thorn, are there any frustrating moments in your life or the business that's causing you frustration or is an obstacle?
Actually, I wish the day was more than 24 hours. So if I had more time in my day, that would be great. So I do need time, which segues to the like structure and a time blocking and things like that. And so I think like I've hired a director of operations that's going to help us as a team and help me as a team leader find more time in the day. And it's not necessarily more time, like more time to be able to be with my family. That's one thing, but also more time to be able to touch base with my past clients. Like like there's so much that you keep here at the current state of affairs, and you just don't find as much time to reach out sometimes, and I would like to. So
So I love the fact that you bring up the point that you've hired a director of operations because you've been in the business 15 years. I've been in the business 25. Let me get my walker out here. Basically, and the reason I have no hair is because I've worn so many hats, on and
yes, oh
off
my
that
God,
I just don't have any hair. But what's interesting is that when I started in 99, there were no teams. That just didn't exist. So the brokerages were really, the team that were in charge of really educating everybody. Marketing back then in 1999, I was at the Corcoran Group, was just Barbara Corcoran on top of a taxi cab,
yeah.
right? That was Corcoran.com and the Corcoran Report. Or it was CNBC where she had Rosemary Clooney come onto my house and just on repeat. We didn't have, like we do today, all of these pillars of our corporation. You are the CEO of your own business, and so you now have stacks in marketing, social media, which in itself is its whole other stack. You have marketing as far as just your listings, and then you have sales and you have operations. None of that was part of our business plan or let alone budget that you had to come up and pay for back in the day. So how have you found from the start until now, and you're part of a team, a formal team, how does that play into your structure and like yearly planning? Has it really morphed into a big thing over the last couple of years?
I mean, it got to the point where you're noticing that you're carrying a lot of the weight on a lot of things that can be offloaded and you just don't know how to do it. You just don't know how to let go. And so you kind of need someone to step in and say, you can let go of this and you can let go of that. And I'm going to help you let go of these things. That's number one. The other part of it is like, I really want my team to be successful. So I wanted to bring in someone that can help support like seminars and especially with this new buyer market, which we all are going to have to navigate now. I want someone that will be able to make the team feel more robust on the buy side. And like they have additional tools in their shed so that they can actually close more buy side transactions. So right now, a lot of the team sits and relies on the listing side that we have. That's very, it's pretty substantial. I think it closed between 40 to 50 townhouses a year, so it's a lot.
That's robust and a very large piece of the market.
Yeah, so we're from that perspective, that's great. But I would love for them to also like start building their own business because we're all entrepreneurs and they should be their own entrepreneurs. Like, yes, they work on our team, but like they should be their own entrepreneurs and be successful with their own book of business. And that's the goal. So I do think that having someone that can oversee that, and yes, it costs money and the team leader pays for it, but like, I have someone that because I think it's going to pay back in dividends, to be honest, because if you're investing in your agents, then they're going to be, first of all, they're going to stay loyal, but also they're going to bring proceeds back to the team. So it's worth it.
Great. So what would you say is the fresh beans that you're looking forward to, the bud?
She is the director of operations is the person I'm looking forward to the most. But I would say that that's someone that can help you arrange your business is and when you feel like you're overwhelmed is definitely the fresh beans, and that's the look forward that we have. We're very excited about that. We're also very excited. We sat with our team for the first time and did the business planning, which we didn't do before. And I think that like just having a little bit more structure with your team and helping them feel empowered, but also feeling responsible, and having accountability between the two parties, the team leader and the agent, is important. So
Where do you see your business in the future? Where is this all leading? Is there a
there are a few, yeah. So I would love to be able to. Number one, I would like to take some of these developers that work in Bed-Stuy and Bushwick and bring them into more established, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, neighborhoods, prime Brooklyn, right, which is coastal, everything along the East River, Brooklyn, and bring them into those neighborhoods and see if we can really push the renovations and push the finishes and succeed in those neighborhoods with these guys. I'm hopeful for that. I also would love to grow condo development arm, starting small, but I think we would be very successful at it. So I know that we don't give up easily and we work very hard on our listings. So I would like to see if we can get into the condo development market as well. So we have more than just one bucket. And then for my agents, like I said before, I would like to see their business become a little bit more robust, more buy side leads. I mean, in fairness, the last 2 years have been very hard. So in fairness to them, the buy side has been very difficult over the last 2 years. I think that we're coming out of that right now. We're seeing a lot of transactions happen just from January. So I think it's a great time to really push this forward. Yeah.
great? So we've been in real estate, both of us, a while. What, in your opinion, what do you think has changed the most?
The technology is different. Like the technology is totally different. I mean, think of before Street Easy. For me, when I came on, there was barely a Street Easy. It was barely Street Easy. And most of the brokerages each had their own website. And if you bought enough Google ads for those words, you would come up on the list higher. And then everyone would have to search on if they wanted to look for listings on their own, they would have to go to each website and find those listings or hire an agent, obviously. So Street Easy has changed the real estate platform in New York City and the country. Zillow.
You came in right around approximately 2010?
2009, I started.
2009. Okay, because when you said this, I remember Sophia Song was at Street Easy. I think she was at Corcoran. And I remember she came to the Superior Inc. Sales Gallery and was talking to us. And so it was all about, garbage in, garbage out. You guys are, when we come to streeteasy.com, you're maybe only 75% correct, right? Because at that time, none of the data was clean. And so it was always starting over again. And it was just amazing to see the progression, because I left Related to start Zollinger and Associates in 2010 because it opened up a whole section of the market that people, instead of going to Corcoran.com or Element.com, they now went to StreetEasy.com, and it opened up the floodgates for all these independent brokers at the time to have market share.
Totally. Otherwise, you had to be at a big firm. I mean, we used to, and like we're our own, like in our own niche, we're our own brand right now. I mean, yes, we work for Compass, but we have our own brand. We're well known in the niche that we work in. We could be our own agency if we wanted to,
I guess if you could go back to that young agent, Tali, and give yourself a piece of advice,
Yeah.
what would it be?
So, I mean, for me, at this time, if it was today, I think you have to join a team. I did not join a team. I joined Nest Seekers, and Nest Seekers wasn't necessarily team-based necessarily. Ironically, I interviewed my mother. It has a friend who's friends with Barbara Corcoran, and so I did interview at on Madison at the office there, and I was told, well, you don't have Rolodex, so you have to either join a team or you have to join a team, or you have to start at City Habitats at that time because it was still affiliated. And so I think I think it's really important in this day and age to join a team because it's very different. We went from being the property finders because Street Easy changed that. Now we're the property advisors. We advise on the process. And I don't know that you can advise if you don't have knowledge about the process and how to go through it. Yes, you could take classes, but it's not the same as going through the experience. And you want to have someone there in the background guiding you and helping you navigate. They don't need to take over. And I believe in throwing my agents into the water and seeing how they swim. I don't want to take over, but I want you to know that I'm here and I'm available if you have questions about your transaction or whatever.
Baptism by fire is what the late Emily O'Sullivan always said. And it was, I agree with you. I think every agent, I mean, back then you just became an assistant, and you had to wait years before you could be on the website. But that experience was invaluable for me because I was just new to the industry, and being able to sit and hear all the people talk. That's why I think being in the office is so important.
100%.
Because you learn the culture and people learn you and meet you. And it's a wealth of unspoken education.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I did a few transactions from just being in the office and hearing about these off-market things that were, talked about at the office. So definitely go to the office.
Yeah. Well, Tali, this has been so inspiring and enlightening. So we like to end talking about motivational quotes. So Tali, is there a quote that you like to share?
It's actually something that my father imparted on me that I take with my life. And he said that you take yourself wherever you go, which means that you are the change that needs to happen. If you want to see change, it has to come from you, because wherever you go, you're still taking yourself with you. So a lot of people look
I like that
to change on the outside, but you have to decide to change on the inside if that's what you want.
I love that. And I love the fact that it came from your father. My father shared with me Zig Ziglar. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with who he is. He was a big motivational speaker in the 80s. And so it just so happens we have a quote from Zig today. And so that quote is, motivation gets you going and habit gets you there. Make motivation a habit and you will get there more quickly and have more fun on the trip.
True.
So with that, Tali, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you, and we wish you luck and success in the coming year and years at Compass. And with that, thank you to our listeners for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in future episodes. I'm Eric Zollinger, your host, reminding you that it is a great day for real estate. The Agent Brew podcast is brought to you by RealtyCo. RealtyCo is your partner in real estate, bringing you game-changing benefits and services to empower your business. Visit realtyco.com for more information.